Ladies and gentlemen, we are back to give you guys an official movie review for Sony Pictures film Madam Web. This is starring a slew of different actors: Sidney Sweeny, Dakota Johnson, Tahar Rahim, and Adam Scott. Me and Lucas are here to give you guys a non-spoiler review. We're gonna go ahead and dissect it right now. What's going on, Lucas?
What's going on, man? We are here to talk about Madam Web, the most useless movie ever made.
I'm just gonna keep it 100. I saw the first trailer for this, and I was intrigued to see what they were gonna do because the character of Madam Web is something that like I've always been intrigued by from the animated series. I just didn't know their approach with it because the comics have gone different ways with it. And the first trailer didn't really entice me, but I was intrigued to see where they could go with it. But unfortunately, that's not necessarily meeting my demand or needs. But I'll let you go ahead first and kick this off because you were actually enticed by this and you were kind of like, oh, I want to see Madam Web. Not sure what your reasons were, but you did want to see it
I
initially.
knew it was gonna. This was a film that I bet my bottom dollar would be so bad it would be entertaining. Like it's one of the films where you're not going into Madam Web expecting a good movie. I don't think anybody was. So I said, okay, but maybe it'll be so bad it'll be entertaining. And from that front, I wasn't really let down by Madam Web because it is bad enough to be entertaining.
Oh man, I don't know how we're gonna go this route, but let's go ahead and kind of get into it. So, as far as the actors portraying these roles of these classic characters, unfortunately for me, I think that the young talent is there. I think that they definitely kind of try to give it what they could based on paper. I mean, I'm a fan of Dakota Johnson. I think she's a really talented actress, but unfortunately, when they kind of merged them all together and their stories started to connect, the dialogue for me was just so off-putting. Like I just could not I couldn't take them seriously when they were interacting. It kind of fell on like these tropes of this classification of this character, this classification of this character. And I just they felt unmemorable. Like every single character felt like I would never even remember their names again if I didn't actually look for it. Um, but there is a positive I want to bring up, but I'll let you lean on to as far as the actors, as far as the characters. Were there anything that you got from any of them?
Dakota Johnson, she is even throughout the mess at times that this movie is, she's still extremely entertaining in this film.
Yeah.
And I think it really works when she's attempting to figure out things as the film progresses.
Yeah.
Like that really works with her. Even the interaction with the three girls here, because the first thing you got to remember, this is supposed to be an overall origin story set in 20 years in the past. So, like, the dialogue didn't bother me because the dialogue felt like the dialogue I would get from an early 2000s teen movie. So I said, okay, like, if you purposely did that, that was creative. If you just happened to come across bad dialogue that way, then wow, you lucked up into it. But Dakota is really, really good in this film. And Adam Scott is decent as Ben Parker, but it's not something that like needs to be talked about. I don't think it's much about anybody being memorable here.
Yeah.
But Dakota's really solid in this role.
Yeah. I mean, Adam Scott, I think he, I don't want to spoil kind of who his character is, but I think that he plays
I
to what I
literally
would
just said who
imagine.
his character was. So
Oh, you did? Oh, no. Well,
it's not a spoiler though. It's
oh,
not,
okay.
his character's not a spoiler.
Okay.
He's literally listed in the credits as that's who he is. So it's not a spoiler who that he's been
Yeah, I
part.
think he plays to the essence of that character without overshooting
Yes.
it. And I think he does a really good job with it. And also I like his interactions with his sister-in-law and certain things with that. I think it plays to a certain level that I thought was good. The thing that I actually felt was the interesting part, and you touched on it, is when she starts to figure out stuff and she's starting to unravel her powers. It reminded me of Final Destination. Not even lying. Like you like every Final Destination has a focal character, and that's what keeps you engaged because you're like, all right, how he's gonna figure out this or how's she gonna figure out that? Like, how can they cheat death this way? And I think if they leaned into that a little bit more, I would be very interested, because I don't think we've ever had like a superhero power fashioned this way. And I think the different levels to where that could have went, I was intrigued at those different frames of how this could have went. But that's not necessarily where the whole movie went. But I was
Yeah.
interested in seeing their approach to it and how they kind of handled it with certain scenarios. Even though some of the scenarios are not like gory or gruesome like a Final Destination, they were thrilling. They were interesting to see where they went. That to me was the source of the entertainment for me in this movie.
Mhm.
Everything else was just silly and ridiculous,
It's
unfortunately.
it's an early 2000s thriller. So if you remember stuff, and I'm equating these films in tone to at times what this movie represents. The General's Daughter, Basic. Like these are movies that aren't good movies, but they still maintain a certain amount of entertainment value because of the way they're paced. So when the film gets off going, like, and it's paced this way as she's remembering things at very much like a butterfly effect. Also, another movie that's not good but entertaining. Like it in that pace, this movie works well. It's when they slow down stuff and people start talking about spiders that this movie just you're just like, wow, could if this had no connection at all to a spider, if this was not named Madam Web, and it was just Don't Let Go, because it also reminded me of that movie with David a couple years ago that came out when him and his niece was talking over the phone and they kept on going back and forth. It reminded me of that movie also. And it
Yeah.
got me to thinking, if this movie didn't have the weight of having to be connected in any way to a comic book, it could be an actual decent thriller, because I think you would lean more into the thrilling aspects of it, which is while you're watching the film, you just wish it would do that more and say, you know what? Granted, we're related to a certain character, but how about we just lean heavy into thriller horror area and
Yeah.
go off of that instead?
Yeah, because you can always kind of pivot and like connect it
Mhm.
after the fact. If you give us a good process of a film, it's not gonna matter. And unfortunately, one of the other negatives I just want to talk about, because he is such a good actor. Like I looked at an older movie he had, I think it's A Prophet back in 2009, and then I think 2022 or 2021, keep me honest, Lucas, was the Manchurian. And I'm talking about Tahar. Tahar is actually a really good actor. And I was kind of intrigued by him being in this. And I was like, okay, but his character for me just did not do anything. I It kind of came off a lot of times really cringy because of the dialogue. And then when there were supposed to be moments of him being menacing, it just did not unfortunately land. And I think that the execution of him as a character, it really kind of failed for
Yeah.
me, unfortunately, in the process of this film. And I think that if he would have had some kind of weight outside of just him being connected to a spider in this, I think the movie would have maybe been a little bit better, because you could have just used his acting ability. But I feel like he was just completely underused and underdeveloped in so many different ways, unfortunately, in this film.
His introduction was sloppy at the beginning as just an assistant type of character with nefarious thoughts and drive that you can see coming from a mile away. When he's in the costume is where it is really good. Like for a film that cost $70 million, this is a cheap movie, and it's movies that cost 2 to 3 times this much that CGI don't look as good as his did at times in this movie. It really works wonders when they show him being completely menacing. When he is out of that suit, though, he is enter bad guy here. Like that's how bad it is. It's like anything. He felt like a Max Payne villain from the like PlayStation 2 or something. Like or somebody you expect to fight Solid Snake. Like the dialogue is just so bad. Again, it's one of them things where is that what the gold was of this is to
No.
rehash those bad thoughts? Because that
Mm-mm.
didn't work at all. It was a missed opportunity to have a villain that could have been something special, but instead you just made him pointless.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
like Kurt Russell in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like you just ruined a good actor for no reason.
Or was it Russell Crowe in Thor?
Oh God. Yeah.
but but yeah, no,
Oh man.
I tried to blank that out, but I just pulled it out of my head.
You
Um,
can't. You can't. You're not allowed to. At this, we tried to erase certain movies out of our memory forever. But yeah, it reminds you of those type of villains where it's a good actor in a role that should have been nailed, and instead it just came up flat for no reason.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, my closing thoughts with this, honestly, is just I didn't have anything to latch onto this. Like the characters feel very forgettable. I think the framings of it and certain aspects of the thriller side, if they would have leaned to it, I think this could have been a really interesting one or entertaining one at best. But the dialogue is just so bad that even if the narrative made it intriguing, I just couldn't keep on track with it. Unfortunately, this to me, I don't know if it's as bad as some of the other films that I've seen lately, but it is
Not in
very
the
forgettable.
genre. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very forgettable, unfortunately. But rating wise, if we're going A to F, I'm not gonna go number. C minus or D. I think I queued a D plus. There you go, D plus.
We are in the same category because it was between C minus to a D plus for me also, because in the end it's forgettable. It's nothing memorable in this film, but it's an easy watch, and it's hard to tell people or make people understand at times. Something being an easy watch is highly important.
Yeah,
We've got in this superhero genre, unfortunately, over the last 6 films, no matter what studio you like, those movies have been hard to sit through. This felt like, oh, I can just watch, I can turn this on. Like, this is gonna kill on streaming and TNT. It's gonna be one of those movies where you're like, I can turn it on and miss multiple parts of it, and yet and still the story won't be affected by me missing any elements of it. Like, it's an easy watch. It's just not a good movie at all. But I guess a lot can be said at this point for where this genre is of something just being an easy watch. Exactly. Exactly. Like between everything that Marvel dropped in the last 2 years, everything DC's dropped in the last 2 years, like it says a lot where you can say, "Oh, I can just turn this on and skip through." It's Sony's superpower at this point, really, when they make these movies, is that they're watchable. They're horrible at times, but they're just watchable. I can
yeah,
just turn you on and not care and just say, "Oh, look at that neat scene," and then go on and finish doing whatever I'm doing, come back and then notice another scene that's like, "Oh, okay, that ain't too bad." So again, it's watchable. It's not good, but it's
yeah.
not nearly as bad as the Marvels or or Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom or Shazam. Like we went through a lot, and this doesn't make things better, but it doesn't make things worse.
Yeah, and the thing about it, this isn't a high budget, so you're not splashed with a whole bunch of CG in your face.
That's the other thing. Good God
Um,
Almighty.
which I think less CG is better at this
Uh-huh.
point. And this doesn't have a lot of heavy CG. And to be fair, to your point, when he is in the costume, it's not like a CG suit. It's just a man in a suit. Like he's
Yeah,
doing spider things, but
they do CG effects with him, but nothing that's over the top.
unnecessary.
Like
Right.
it felt like this was more grounded of a movie than what you got out of everybody else, which is very weird to say it's more grounded, but it is. And for that level alone, you get an enjoyability of this film that you don't get from the rest of those films.
Yeah.
So, is it good?
No.
As far from it as humanly possible. Is it watchable? Yes. Like Morbius, this is a movie that's going to probably kick up on streaming
Yeah.
more than anything else because it's so watchable.
Yeah. And it's got spider people in it. So we want you guys to let us
Three
know.
spider people in it.
Right.
Three. All for 5 minutes, possibly, maybe less. Because they definitely did say we're not wasting a budget on showing effects here. So
No,
again,
no.
if you yeah,
But if you guys go and watch it, let us know if you enjoyed the film. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's debuting this tomorrow. Actually, thank
yeah, it
Valentine's
drops Wednesday on Valentine's Day. So you could take your sweetheart to the movie and do a double feature. I know we had Barbenheimer, so maybe you can do
Day.
One Web with One Love and Madam Web.
Bob Marley and Madam Web. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One Web weekend. There you go.
Perfect duo. Yeah, this has no love story in it though, so don't look for no romance to be.
Which is very weird to release it on Valentine's Day, and there is no love story in it.
For those people that don't have love, there you go. You can watch this movie. We're gonna go. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace, people.
Filing out the top of
I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on my timeline. Ain't nothing on my